Join the HOA chaos. Like, subscribe, and remember, Karen is always watching. I came home from work, coffee still warm in the cup holder, when I noticed something strange. Sunlight hitting the front of my house differently. I glanced at my yard and froze. 3 of my trees were gone. Not trimmed. Not pruned. Completely cut down. I stood there trying to make sense of it. These weren't just random trees. They were old oaks I'd planted years ago, ones that shaded my home every summer and made my front yard feel peaceful. And now they were stumps. Shredded into wood chips. Like they never existed. At first, I thought maybe the city had done something. I called them. They hadn't. I called my landscaper. He hadn't been there in weeks. Then it hit me. My neighbor, Greg. Greg, the guy who just renovated his front yard into some kind of sun garden. Greg, the one who always said, "You know, those trees are blocking the light from my patio." Greg, who once jokingly said, "One good windstorm and they'll solve themselves." I walked over to his property line and saw exactly what I needed. Sawdust on his side too. Fresh. Obvious. I knocked on his door, calmly. He opened it, wearing that smug little smirk he always had. "Hey neighbor," he said. "Looks a lot brighter out today, huh?" I stood on Greg's porch, trying to keep my cool. My heart was pounding, but I wasn't about to give him the satisfaction of seeing me blow up. "Did you cut down my trees?" I asked flatly, keeping my voice calm. He raised an eyebrow. "Well, they were leaning a little close to the property line," he said, arms crossed like he was proud of himself. "They weren't really safe. Could have fallen during a storm. They were on my side, Greg. My property. You had no right." He shrugged. "I mean, the branches were hanging over. I figured I'd just take care of it. You're welcome, by the way. Your house probably feels way more open now." My fists clenched. He was gaslighting me. Trying to frame it like a favor when he'd just destroyed something valuable and personal without asking. I didn't even know how he did it, who did the cutting, or when. He saw my expression change and leaned into it. "Don't take it so seriously," he said. "It's just a few trees. You've got a yard full of plants. And hey, it helped my garden too." That was the moment it clicked. Greg had cut my trees on purpose, not because they were unsafe, but because he wanted more sunlight on his side of the yard. He wanted his fancy rose garden and patio to get better exposure, and instead of asking or working something out like a normal human being, he just took. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just said, "This isn't over." And I walked back home. Once inside, I started documenting everything. Photos of the cut stumps, the direction the trees fell, traces of sawdust that led right to his fence. I even checked my security cam footage and caught a small clip of workers carrying equipment back toward his driveway. Perfect. Then I pulled out my property survey. Every inch of those trees had been on my land. I confirmed it with the city's GIS maps. I printed everything. And finally, I made a few calls, to my insurance, a local arborist, and a lawyer. Greg thought he got away with it. But the roots of revenge. They grow deeper than trees. By the next morning, I had a plan. Greg thought he could get away with cutting down trees because, in his mind, trees weren't worth much. He had no idea what he'd just done. Turns out, mature oak trees, especially ones that are healthy and professionally maintained, carry real value. Not just aesthetic value, actual dollar value. And since these were on my property and cut without permission, that made it criminal property damage. My arborist came out later that week. He assessed everything, took samples, and wrote up a full damage report. His valuation. Around $11,000 for the 3 trees. Not to mention the impact on shade, energy costs, and property value. I sent all of this to my lawyer. And that's when Greg's world started to change. My attorney drafted a formal letter of intent to sue. It detailed the damage, included the arborist's report, and cited state laws on illegal tree removal. In my state, it's not just civil. It's a felony if someone knowingly cuts down trees on someone else's land, especially valuable ones. Greg received the letter on a Friday afternoon. By Monday morning, he was at my door, face pale, all that smug confidence gone. "Hey, can we talk?" he asked, scratching the back of his neck like a nervous kid. I opened the door just a crack. "I didn't realize the trees were worth that much," he said. "Can we just work something out?" I gave him a blank look. "Like how you worked something out before you brought chainsaws onto my property." He had no words. I shut the door. That same week, he got hit with a formal notice of lawsuit, and my lawyer filed a claim in small claims court. I also filed a police report, not because I expected jail time, but because a formal complaint would go on record. Greg tried everything to get me to back off. He sent a handwritten apology. He even had the nerve to ask if we could split the cost to replant something else. Nope. The day of the hearing came, and Greg looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. He tried to argue that it was an honest mistake, and that he thought it was legal to trim anything overhanging. But the evidence spoke louder than his excuses. The survey showed the trees were 100% on my property. The arborist proved the trunks hadn't crossed the line at all. My security footage showed workers entering from his yard. The judge didn't hesitate. Judgment in my favor. $11,250 in damages plus court fees. Greg tried to act like it wasn't a big deal, but the second he walked out of court, I saw it hit him. He didn't just lose a few grand. He lost his image, his pride, and any respect left in the neighborhood. He could have asked. He could have been decent. Instead, he took something that wasn't his, and now he had to pay for it. But I wasn't done just yet. Winning in court was satisfying. Don't get me wrong. Watching Greg's face twist when the judge handed down the $11,250 judgment was a moment I'll never forget. But money wasn't what this was really about. It was about making a statement. Respect your neighbor's boundaries, or deal with the consequences. Still, even after the ruling, Greg didn't change much. He paid the judgment, slowly, in installments, and muttered about it being overkill. He even hinted that I'd taken things too far. Imagine that. He destroyed my trees, and I was the villain. That's when I decided to go one step further. Legally, of course. You see, there's a lot you can do with landscaping. And thanks to the settlement, I had a little extra budget to work with. Remember Greg's beloved rose garden? The one that needed full sun all afternoon? Well, I hired a landscaping company. Not to rebuild what I lost. No, I had a better idea. I asked them to plant a row of fast-growing evergreens right along the property line. On my side, obviously. Completely legal. These weren't just any trees. I picked a breed known for its dense, tall coverage. Trees that shoot up like rockets and form a solid green wall. Think of them like a hedge on steroids. They started small, just 6 feet tall at planting, but they were known to grow over 4 feet a year. And with proper care, they'd hit 20 feet in no time. Thick, tall, and impossible to see through. The landscaper even smiled and said, "Your neighbor's about to lose some serious sunlight." I just nodded. Over the next few weeks, Greg started to notice. He'd peek over his fence, trying to hide his concern. First, he saw the new saplings. Then, he noticed how quickly they started to fill in. And then, the shade came. By the end of the second month, the edge of his prized garden wasn't getting light past noon. By month 4, half of it was gone, withered, stunted, dying slowly in the growing shadow of my new green wall. Greg came over again. Different tone this time. "Hey, listen," he started. "Those new trees of yours, they're kinda blocking the sun." I smiled politely. "Oh yeah. They do grow fast, don't they? Would you maybe consider trimming them a bit? Maybe plant something a little smaller?" His voice was hopeful, desperate even. I looked him in the eye and said, I figured you'd appreciate it. You said you liked the yard more open. Brighter. He blinked. Besides, I added, they're all on my land. And they're healthy. No HOA rules against evergreens, right? He had nothing to say. And that was it. Now, when I look out from my kitchen window, I see a lush green wall standing tall between our properties. My side stays cool and private. His side. A once proud garden now struggling under constant shade. The irony. He cut my trees for sunlight. And ended up in the dark. Poetic justice, if you ask me.